Welcome to the Cantina Chatter Podcast.
Turn up your nostalgia.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. I'm Victoria, your host here on the Cantina Chatter Podcast, your resource for new and retro toys, pop culture, and randomness from the 80s and 90s. So you remember that film, Independence Day from 1996? That award-winning, critically acclaimed, universally praised and beloved 90s gem? Yeah, you do. It's one of my favorite films, and it had a toy line, so, that automatically gets my attention, but especially because it's something that I grew up with, and I absolutely loved the film. Fascinated by the whole thing of aliens and UFOs, and especially back at the time, the mid-90s, when, there was that huge UFO craze in America, and this was the perfect film to kind of fit within that climate, so really excited to talk Independence Day and its toy line with Toy Shiz, who is back once again. And we're going to talk about the film, talk about our favorite things about it, and go over the history of it a little bit. And then we're going to get right into the toys and kind of dissect the toy line that Trendmasters created for this film back in 1996. So 90s kids assemble as we set our time traveling dial back to 1996 and talk about ID4. Joining me today over here in the Cantina, once again, is none other than Toy Shiz.
Hello, everyone. How is everyone?
Hopefully everyone is doing fantastic, just as are we, because we're going to be talking about one of my favorite films of all time. I think it's a film that you enjoy quite a bit too. It is totally a 90s film, and with Independence Day approaching, what better film is there to talk about than Independence Day?
And the amount of Academy Awards this movie won, we have to talk about that.
I know.
It's insane. Jeff Goldblum, Best Actor, that was crazy.
And who played his dad? What was the name of the actor who played his dad in that film?
Judd Hirsch.
Yeah, best supporting actor right there.
That guy was awesome.
He was.
Even as a kid, I'm like, who is this crazy man? Like, this is like, my dad doesn't act like this.
Yeah, and somebody mentioned that on Twitter, that's one of the things about Independence Day is that all the characters are charismatic, they're fun to watch, they each kind of do their own thing, and even the people that are kind of behind the scenes, like more of the villain type characters, like, the Secretary of Defense, who's kind of like a scumbag. They're fun to hate, it's just like everybody in this film truly stands out, and I think that that's one of the things that even if it's not the most highly rated film, I think that you can't deny that all the character portrayals in this film are pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like one of the best character driven movies. It's like everybody has their own little quirks and they're so decipherable, much like Jurassic Park, they were all color coded. These ones are all personality coded.
Yeah, and they're flawed characters. Like everybody in this film is a flawed character, and they're each dealing with their own thing. And I don't think there's a perfect character in this film really. Everybody really has fault.
Maybe Boomer. Boomer's he's the only good. The dog. I think that's the only character that.
Oh man, yeah,
he's just pure all the way around.
Yeah, he is. He is totally. But then even you look at the president, he's very rigid. He doesn't really want to listen to anybody outside of his, little circle. And then, Russell Case, obviously, played by the awesome Randy Quaid. He's a drunk.
I love that ending.
Yeah. He's a drunk, but he comes back at the end. Even like Will Smith, he's kind of a hothead. I mean, like everybody. I mean, this is just kind of scraping, the surface. But like everybody in this this film, it has some sort of a flaw. And I think that's one of the things that makes them relatable and makes them fun and interesting to watch. And
yeah. Except for Harry Connick Jr., he was an ace pilot. He forgot how to fly. He went too high and he pulled his mask off, and that's why he got killed. It's terrible.
It is awful. I mean, guys, keep the mask on, especially if it's a direct order.
Yeah, if Will Smith is telling you to do something, just do it. Like, come on.
Will Smith knows best.
Yeah, exactly. This is gonna be a lot of fun. There's like I'm already like going through like the movie in my head, going like, oh my god, there's so many wild, crazy moments.
Yeah.
And just bizarre stuff that happens, but it all works. I don't know why it works so well.
It does. Yeah, so lots of great characters, and we got to talk about the era in which this film came out, because like I said, it's a 90s film. It's like a quintessential 90s film. Everything about it, is very 90s. The technology, the way they speak to each other.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even the visuals. The visuals are pretty darn good, but, it does have a very 90s feel about it. But I think, like, at that time, one of the things I remember is that the film was pretty well praised for its visual effects. Is that correct?
I think, yeah. I remember. I mean, they used, this was like the perfect amalgamation of like the just beginning computer effects that Jurassic Park had utilized and everything else, and it was pretty dang realistic, especially when they did like some of the models. I think they destroyed the Empire State Building or something like that. It blows up, and you can go, okay, that's a model. But when they blow up the White House, I was like, dang, like that's the money shot right there.
Yeah, that it is pretty awesome. And of course, I'm sure we all remember, that teaser with the White House being blown up. Oh, what's that?
Yeah. I think I remember sitting in the theater and some like older guy was like, well, that's just terrible. Like, why would they do that? And as a kid, I'm like, cool. Like, what's this going to be?
Yep. Yeah, that's funny. So do you remember the time that you saw Independence Day in the theater? I
saw it on opening night, and I went with my family and like two other family. Like we were having like a bar, like it was a day at the beach barbecue, and my parents had wanted to see it. The other parents of those kids I was friends with, they wanted to see it. We all went, and the theater was packed. Like it was like people were screaming, like people were losing their minds over this movie. I remember that, and it was a lot of fun. I remember not really pretty sure I saw it like 2 or 3 times. My parents used to drop me off in the theater. They would just be like, "Hey, we'll see you in like a couple of days. Go to the movies for a couple hours." And I remember seeing it like a lot of times, so I kind of got the story more as I saw it a couple times. But yeah, it was anarchy. Like people were so jazzed to see this movie because even when they kind of did the trailers and stuff, they didn't tell you what it was. It was a great like marketing
thing.
It was like, yeah, the White House blows up and there's like aliens or something, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like they'll mention the guy in the crop duster or and then they're like, oh, Will Smith is in it. You're like, oh, cool. And they're like, oh, the guy from The Fly is in it. It's like, all right, yeah, that's cool too, I guess. So it was a blast.
Yeah, I saw it with my dad and my brother. We were. I think my mom was doing shopping or something. Obviously, it's summertime, you're at home, you're a kid. And, so we went to see it one afternoon. And, yeah, it's like you're saying, it was a full house. It was opening weekend. I don't know if it was opening day that we saw, because according to what I have here, it says July 2nd. That was the opening date. But when you look at that, July 2nd was actually a Tuesday. So that's kind of weird if that's the case, but it also makes sense because maybe they wanted to get it out before July 4th, which I guess they still could have done it the weekend before that. But
yeah, now I'm thinking like, oh my god, are my memories like false or what am I thinking? But as far as what I remember, yeah, it was whatever that day had come out, and maybe it was like if it was Tuesday, maybe it was like a couple days later, and I would just have the little kid memory going on. But yeah. Either way, I remember it just being like Pacquiola'd.
Oh, yeah. And I know that we saw it before 4th of July, and I think that was like the perfect way to do it because, in the excitement leading up to the 4th of July, this movie is perfect. So I'm pretty sure we saw it maybe like the day before, 2 days before that or something. So, yeah.
every Independence Day, like for a couple years after that, everyone always talked about this movie too. They were always like, "Oh man, I hope the aliens don't show up on," at least people that I talk to in my family and stuff like that.
Sure.
I'm like, "Oh yeah," and then after a while, you're like, "Okay, we got it. It's not fun anymore."
Yeah, they would even show it on TV every year. Like every Independence Day for like 10 years after it came out, it would be on like some channel on the 4th of July.
Yeah, no, it's probably not the only movie, but it is like the July 4th movie, right? Like Christmas has got a couple, Halloween's got a couple. Like this is the holiday or the movie holiday for Independence Day.
Yeah, totally. I try to watch it every July 4th. If I can't do that, I try to watch it like right before that. But like I said, I still highly enjoy this film, even if it isn't like the most highly rated film. It's still freaking awesome. And, it's one of those things, it's from your childhood. So you associate it with, growing up and whatnot. But
yeah,
I just want to look here at, how it rated at the time. So this is going off Rotten Tomatoes, which obviously as far as I know, didn't exist in 1996.
No,
but
I don't think so.
It shows that it had 64% critics and audience score is 75%. So,
I agree with that. I think like critics like didn't really. They're like, "What is this? This is new. Like I don't understand these types of new blockbusters." And critics were just like, "I don't care." Regular folks like us, we were just like, "Oh yeah, this is amazing. Blow more stuff up. Let's do sequels."
Yeah, totally. We want more aliens. That's what we want.
They were supposed to do sequels. They were supposed to have like 2 more. It was supposed to be like ID4 2 and then ID4 Forever, I think it was, or something like that. And then it just never
got off the ground. Probably for good reason, as we came to know very recently.
Right? Oh, really? I see. As goofy as that, like that was terrible, but I still loved it. And the best part was I saw it in the same theater I saw the original Independence Day, like 20 years later.
That's awesome. I love that.
Oh my god! Yeah.
So yeah, looking here at the Roger Ebert website, so it looks like they rated it back on July 2nd, 1996, and he gave it 2.5 out of 3 stars. Kind of a weird system that they used to use, the 3-star system. But he says the best shot in Independence Day is one of the first ones of a vast shadow falling across the lunar surface, and totally agree with that. That's like a perfect way that they started this movie. Just like it's out in space, you have like the theme playing, very softly, and then you see that flag and the plaque there of how the first men on the moon came in peace for all mankind, and yeah, and then you see the shadow looming over. It's like, oh my god, this they're not wasting any time with this movie.
No, I love like the guy in SETI where he's like, he calls the guy in the middle of the night. He's like, unless this is like a big beautiful woman, I'm hanging up, and the guy like I don't know, sleeps under a drawer or something like that. Like he hits his head, and I'm like, what did you hit your head on? Like it's not a bunk bed. Like they just put something there to be like, hit your head on something, it'll be funny.
Yeah.
Like, then he kills himself. He slips on golf balls or whatever he says.
Yeah. What's with the golf balls here? You're going to kill me. Yeah. I always thought it was a bunk bed. I don't know why, but that's a good point. It probably is a desk. I mean, that would make sense. Everybody like is working here, but they're all in their pajamas, right? So it's like, yeah.
Well, apparently SETI, I don't know why I know this, but SETI is like a completely like you donate your time. You don't exactly work there, and that might be really wrong, but I think that's right. So these people don't really work. I don't know. Maybe they've changed SETI, but apparently it's like a donated time thing.
Yeah, well, you can do it from home on your own computer.
Yeah, now seriously.
What do you do in your spare time? Oh, I look for alien life.
Yeah. That would be the best answer you give anybody. It's like, I'm searching it out. I'm gonna find it, and they're gonna be like, oh yeah, sure, no problem.
That's my hobby. That's what you would say. But yeah, so no, I mean it has a great opening, and I totally agree with what he said there about that opening shot. Here's another review from the Hollywood Reporter from 1996, and basically they rated it by not giving it a rating. I guess Hollywood Reporter doesn't do ratings per se, but they do a written review. So he said so the person that wrote this was so the Hollywood Reporter staff. It's not attributed to any one person. In short, it's the world against aliens, and there's a ticking clock in this War of the Worlds-ish saga. Like the 70s disaster films, an odd and unlikely assortment of individuals rally together to take on the overwhelming natural force, in this instance, the invading aliens. End quote. So that kind of goes back to like what we were saying, you have all kinds of characters that are interacting with one another, and they're facing, these insurmountable odds of, these high-tech aliens coming from another, planet or galaxy or who knows what. I think that's one of the best qualities about this film, is that you do kind of have that ragtag group of different people and, coming together and being able to have like a really meaningful impact ultimately. Yeah,
it's definitely one of those movies when you're watching it, you're just like, especially when you first see it, you're just like, how are they going to beat these people? And then they really, like with Bill Pullman's speech, you're just like, oh man, he killed it. Like, I'm on board. Let's fly up there and like destroy these things. Like that was a dang good. He knew what he was doing with that speech. He got everybody going.
Oh, you went to the speech. Let's talk about that speech, because yeah, I mean, that's highly regarded probably as the best part of the film. I mean, even some people will say, the speech is kind of cheesy and, it's kind of, predictable, but I mean, it's a freaking great speech. I mean, like, you can apply. I think awesome. Movies have tried to recapture that speech like in their own ways, and I don't think it's ever been done as quite meaningfully or had the same impact that it quite had in Independence Day.
Yeah, exactly. And being like, let's say an American citizen, if something were like with like 9/11, if that happened, like that was essentially that speech, you know what I mean, over and over again. Like, remember, like after all the terrible things that happened, it was just like, just come together. And when you're watching this movie, you're just like, dang, like that's like an edge of your seat kind of moment. Like, all right, they gotta win. If they don't win, then you know what? At least they went down fighting. So
yeah,
you can't get better than that.
Yeah, it's a great speech, and I tear up when I watch Independence Day and that comes on. I mean, it's hard not to. I mean, it's just so it's acted out perfectly. Like Bill Pullman's acting in that scene is like he doesn't flinch, and it's like you see like the reactions of all the with all the characters, like the shots looking at different people, and it's inspiring. It really is.
Except for the one guy, the guy at the end that salutes, he's just way too into it. I always remember that. Like, I'd be like, yes, and then when it cuts to him, I'm like, you killed it, man. Like, you were the guy that...
Never really... Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I never really thought about it that way, though.
Yeah, he's so, like, hyped up. He's like, yeah, let's do it. He's probably the first one to get blown up, too. No.
But there's a really great shot there, too, of Russell Case, just like, Randy Quaid, like, he's sobered up, he's had some coffee, and... Like, I just loved like those cuts. It's kind of like in Rogue One, when you see like Jyn Erso kind of giving the speech, and they kind of cut to all the different actors to their faces for a moment. Same sort of feel.
Yeah, and you know what? Like in talking about like having the speech is like a tearjerker almost moment. Like even when Randy Quaid is like, like tell my kids like adios, and you're just like, oh man, like he's come full circle. Like he was like you said, like the drunk, and then like thrown in jail, and then he's like pretty much just an alcoholic the rest of the movie, and
he's ridiculed constantly.
Saves the day. God, that's like the greatest line at the end where like he's like, hello boys, imagine waking up and seeing Randy Quaid like looking at you like that, like, oh my god.
That's funny. So we actually watched Independence Day in I think it was the year after that. I want to say I was in seventh grade, and we watched it, and it was in my reading class or whatever. I don't remember why we watched Independence Day, but it was like towards the end of the year. She's like, you guys are watching Independence Day. So we did. But, when they have like the strip club part, she did kind of stand in front of the TV so we couldn't see that. But,
oh, that's right. Yeah. I was a guy, I always liked that part. I was like, I didn't know what was happening. You know what I mean? Like, oh, what is this about? Like, cool. And now what Harry Connick Jr. meant. He's like, she's a stripper, or he won't let you fly the space shuttle if you marry a stripper. And I'm like, that makes sense now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. So one of the things we also got to talk about is the culture in which this film came out, because as you probably well remember, like mid to late 90s, like just the whole hype behind like UFO mania and aliens, and I mean this was a huge part of like pop culture at the time. Like aliens and UFOs were everywhere.
Yeah, I remember as a kid, like I was into aliens. You know what I mean? Like I had books and paranormal stuff and like all that. Like yeah, that was like Unsolved Mysteries was my jam. Like Robert Stack, that scared the heck out of me. Like my God, that show. But yeah, everyone in some way was like really into aliens.
Yeah. It was everywhere. Like, this is the time that the X-Files was on television. It was very popular.
Yeah.
This was the time that weird documentaries like Alien Autopsy were coming out, which, was...
Oh, my God. That was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like supposedly it was like some film that was, all the way back from like after Roswell, and, somebody just stumbled upon it all of a sudden in the 90s. They're like, oh, check this out. Even people like Stan Winston were lending their voice to it and saying, oh yeah, I think this is real because you can't replicate this and that. And
yeah. You know what? There was a special on Fox that was like, I think it was probably a week or two before Independence Day came out. And I remember they used to do that with a lot of like Fox movies. They did it with X-Files, like Fight the Future. And I remember they were talking about how like they had the government's permission to like use certain facilities, and you got planes and everything else that they could use. And as soon as they were like, well, the movie's about aliens in Area 51, they were like, okay, no, we can't. Probably because of a security measure, And on the documentary, I remember the guy, I think Dean Devlin or the director he's like, I think we were just kind of like stirring things up, but they don't want us to know. And I'm like, as a kid, I was like, yeah, that's probably right. Like and now I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, no, probably just didn't want to let you film in a highly restricted area. So
right.
I always thought that was funny.
Yeah, it was everywhere though, and I think it was like 2 years later that Men in Black came out, right?
Yeah, because this was the movie that made Will Smith the summer blockbuster guy, and then he killed it with Wild Wild West, right? Wasn't that like his last one or something like that? But it went like Independence Day, Men in Black, Wild Wild West, something like that. Yeah.
Oh gosh, Wild Wild West.
God, my God, that movie.
We won't go there. We'll stick to...
No, we'll save that for another episode.
Yeah, we'll stick to...
It'll be like a 5-minute episode.
Yeah, no, but aliens were everywhere. There was also that incident in Phoenix where they had those lights. Do you remember that?
It was something that... It was all the news, right? And then people were like really freaking out about it.
Yeah.
And it turned out it was... Like, they never actually figured out what it was. Was that the one? Yeah.
They said it was like weather balloons or something, but... yeah, I mean,
it's always weather balloons for some reason. We never use them, but it's always weather balloons.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was, even when you go to the store, like I remember I think it was this era, it was like 97. We went to a mall, and I remember there was a company at the time, it was called Shadowbox Collectibles, and they were manufacturing like this line of like little alien figurines.
Okay.
And they were like in different scales. I'll have to send you the link, but they were actually pretty cool. I remember my brother had one. And then, even in the Valentine's Day section, you'd see like aliens, like alien Valentine's Day cards. You'd see like in cereal boxes, they'd come with like posters that just had like generic like space and alien stuff. And there's a poster actually from somewhere in that era, like the mid 90s, I think it was like 96, that came in a cereal box. And for the life of me, I don't remember what cereal it was. I remember in my head exactly what the poster looked like, but I've looked for it for years on eBay and online. I've never been able to find it.
Was it an alien face?
No. So it was like a cereal. I don't know what cereal it was, but they had like a series of 4 posters that you would get in your cereal box, and they were about space, and one of them was about extraterrestrials, and it had just like a family of aliens that were like kind of gathered around and like talking to each other, and it was kind of weird, but it's the kind of thing that I could still see it in my head, but I have no idea what happened to that poster, and I've been looking for it for years, and I can't find it anywhere.
Sounds like a cornflakes sort of marketing campaign. No, that sounds really interesting. I don't know. I'm going to say it vaguely sounds familiar, but I have no recollection of that. Huh.
Yeah, there were all kinds of weird, cereal box toys and posters.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, we could even do a whole episode about that someday.
Oh, cereal pack-ins back in the day, like kids don't even know.
Nope.
Like there was stuff. I mean, you'd go to the grocery store and kind of open it up and like oh, that's the one I want. And you kind of stuff the cereal back in. Don't do that now. You'll get in trouble.
Yeah. You know what? It's funny because occasionally they'll still do things like spoons.
Yeah.
You know, like color changing spoons that change color in your milk. And sometimes I'll see like where people have gone through and ripped open the cereal boxes to get the spoons out. But
oh yeah, that's like Marvel Legends and everything else these days. Like people just taking pieces and parts, and God, stop doing that, people.
yeah, stop doing that. It's a bad habit. It's not very nice.
Yeah, especially when it's the figure I've been looking for.
Yeah, so this movie really came out at the perfect time. UFO mania across America, people talking about aliens because of the X-Files, and all these great mediums. And so Independence Day comes out. It's a huge movie. It's like a tremendously successful summer blockbuster. It had a budget of $75 million. It went on to make $817 million.
Dang. Wow. And that is shocking. I mean, nowadays, if it made that much money, they would have greenlit the sequel the next day. Like, guess what? We got 2, 3, we're going to Avatar the heck out of this thing. So
right. It's like, oh, you don't have a story? You'll figure it out. Let's just go ahead and give you the contract right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of an unusual thing how they took so long to do the sequel, but so let's go back and talk a little bit about the cast, because I know that we've been talking a little bit about how strong the cast is.
Yeah.
But if we focus like on the primary cast, so we already talked a little bit about Will Smith. This is kind of like the film that solidified him as like an A-list like blockbuster star, and prior to that, of course, he had been most well known from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which another '90s show that I find still highly entertaining to watch whenever that comes on TV. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I still watch that. Like you said, I don't go looking for it, but when I am like going through it, I'm like, okay, all right, watch this right now.
It's like Full House. It's like, oh, okay, Full House is on. I'll give that a look.
I always remember watching like Extreme Ghostbusters and going like, is that Carlton's voice? The guy who played Roland. I was like, and I looked it up. I was like, oh yeah, cool.
That's funny.
Everything's connected.
Everything's connected. And then, of course, Bill Pullman, he had been in some other 90s films around that era. While You Were Sleeping, I think, is one that comes to mind. I always remember him in that film, like Buying Donuts or something.
Was Casper before Independence Day, or was that after?
I think it was before. I'm going to look that up right now. So,
because that's what if it was before, then I was like, oh, that's the dad from Casper.
It was before. It was the year before, actually, 1995.
Okay. Yeah, that movie was awesome. I don't know how you feel about that one, but I love that movie.
Yeah. You know what? I haven't seen it since then. I mean, I liked it at the time, but...
Oh, it's on Netflix. I've watched it like a couple times.
That's
I'll be
funny.
like, oh.
That's funny. I gotta check it out.
It still holds up. And I forgot like the Ghostbusters, Ray Stantz is in it for like a split second, and just a bunch of old jokes and stuff, but it still holds up. It's a very 90s movie, like you were saying, like
yeah,
no cell phones, everyone's calling by landlines.
Right. Remember Devin Sawa?
Oh yeah, he was. Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, he was like on the cover of every like issue of like, what was it back then, like 16 and Teen Bopper and all those magazines. Oh,
I was gonna say, like, was it Disney Adventures? Yeah, I know. Probably you're right in that sense too, but I think Devin Sawa. Yeah, he was in Final Destination and stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
I love that movie. Not the other ones, but yeah.
yeah, not the other ones. But yeah, so yeah, of course, obviously, Bill Pullman. I thought he did really well in this film, and very, handsome-looking president, and big draw right there.
Yeah.
And then of course, you have Jeff Goldblum, who's like the greatest thing ever. And, he's off a few years off the heels of Jurassic Park and, all those other films that he did in the, the late 80s going into the 90s, and like The Fly that you mentioned earlier.
Oh, yeah. That movie terrified me. I saw that. Like, I was watching it by myself. My mom was like, I was going to put a movie on for you. And when his head like splits open in the mirror, I like lost it. I was like, what is this?
I know, when he's looking in the mirror and he's like pulling like his nose off and his ears off, and he keeps going. It's like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, I still think about that. You know what I mean? And then when the guy or like the boyfriend or whatever is like fighting with the fly, and he starts like vomiting like acid on him, and I was like, oh my god, like what is this?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a kid too, and my mom showed me that, and I was like, why did you make me watch this?
Yeah.
But yes.
We were tougher back then as kids. We sat through Alien.
We sat through Howard the Duck.
Oh God, yeah, that movie. They should. Somebody said to me the other day, they're like, like I said, oh, I don't mind Disney took over, and like, well, I hope you enjoy them making Howard the Duck movies. I'm like, they already made a Howard the Duck movie. I'm like, Disney wasn't even a part of that, and they were like, oh, I didn't know that. I'm like, how old are you?
Yeah. You encounter that sometimes these days.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Jeff Goldblum was pretty awesome. I mean, I kind of feel like Jeff Goldblum is kind of almost the same guy, like in every movie, sort of.
Yeah, he is.
Which I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just like he's, there are some actors that, just kind of are like that, like they feel like they're kind of playing the same character. And
he's very much like he has that personality, and like he's gotten even more popular, I think, as a result, like over the years because of that, because he's just like, he's so like scatterbrained, but he's very appealing, very charming.
Yeah.
When he talks. And one of my favorite movies that he's in is The Life Aquatic, which is also one of my favorite movies of all time. But he's so deadpan about everything, and Goldblum, he can't do wrong at this point, I don't think.
He can't. He's a national treasure, and he deserves to be loved the way that he is.
Yeah, and rumor is he's coming back to the next Jurassic Park. Ooh.
Yeah.
I guess they all are, I guess, but
I
we'll
hope
see.
So. That would be like the greatest thing since Jurassic Park, probably. So.
Right? Yeah. I got to do it for the last well, I'm sure they'll make a ton more, but if you really want to cap it off right, and
right. Totally.
Do Jurassic Park in space or whatever they do next, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah. So I think one of the coolest things about his character, it's a very quirky thing, is, he's always like recycling and like admonishing people for not, throwing their can in the recycling bin. And he's, I think he has that line like, oh, I'm always trying to save the planet. Well, here's my chance, go fight the aliens.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's definitely a very nerdy character, but, like we were saying, like all these characters have a lot of charisma, and they just come across as very relatable and very likable.
I always liked, like, in that scene at the beginning where he's like talking to his boss, or I forget exactly what their relationship was, but like maybe it's the guy he works with, but he has that really raspy voice. He's funny, but he's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "So me, David." Like, David. I always remember that.
That's a good impression. Do it again.
Yeah. That man's throat must like burn on fire, because like even to do that, he's like so me. And then he's on the phone with like his doctor or something like that, and like he sees all the carnage coming at him, he just gives up, and I'm like, oh man, that character. His name is was it Harvey Fierstein?
Harvey Fierstein.
Yeah,
Fierstein.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I like that. All the side characters too have such personality.
Yeah. I bet this guy's been smoking since he was like 8.
Right? God dang. Like, God, it's like, do you gotta drink water like every second of the day? Like, my God, it's gotta burn.
But yeah, you're right. All the side characters have, their own like quirks and personalities, and that goes back to, just all the characters really kind of shining in their own way. Everybody has their moment. A lot of them die, but, everybody does have their moment. So,
yeah.
So
even the general, I want to say General Hardcastle, but I don't think that's from Superman. He's like, you cost us the lives of hundreds of American pilots. And the little weasel, he's like, oh, we didn't know, and then, yeah, every single one of the characters is great. I would love to get action figures for them now.
Oh man, that would be awesome. Like if they went back and, kind of like they're doing now with a lot of lines, but they made like updated ID4 toys. And we'll get into the toys in just a little bit.
Funko, make them. You seem to be really good at making all those like really odd end type, 3 3/4 inch figures. Do that. Just go crazy with Independence Day.
Yeah, that would be super cool. Another character here, the son of Russell Case actor's name is James Duval, and Miguel.
Yeah.
But I recognized him from other films as well.
He would. What's he from? I forget. I mean, I know his face. I can see his face.
Yeah,
even the daughter. The daughter was from Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But this other guy, he was in Gone in 60 Seconds. I think that's the thing that stands out to me the most.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Another movie. That one wasn't actually in the 90s, but it feels like it's from that era still.
Seriously, dang. Yeah, that was like, what are we coming up, like 15 years now for that? Jeez.
It's 2000.
Oh wow, 19.
Yeah, it's a long time ago, and it's another one of my favorite movies too.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. So I mean, lots of different people in this film, and you do see a lot of them in different films and to different different extents. But one thing I also want to touch on here is like the 90s-ness of this film. So they're talking about like computers and viruses and satellites, and like back in the 90s, like this is when all this stuff kind of came to the forefront, I think, of the public consciousness. Like,
yeah,
like nobody really had computers until like the 90s. That's when people started getting them. Even before we had the internet, we started having computers so we could like type things up and, play computer games and, very like, by today's standards, very rudimentary stuff.
Well, I remember when my parents got a computer, and like the main thing everyone, like, don't make sure you don't get a virus. Like, don't download anything or go on eBay. I remember it was like the first night we got our computer. I went on eBay because everyone was like, "Yeah, you got to go on eBay. Like, you can buy like anything you want or something like that." And my parents thought I ordered just by clicking on things. They're like, "Oh my god, like how did you order? Like our bank account and credit cards are all hooked up somehow by what I mean? Like none of that worked back in the day."
Yeah.
Too funny, but oh, that was fun to have computers back in the day. God dang.
Yeah, it was, and like dial up, and
yeah.
When you look at the film, you look at like the font on their computer screens, and the types of computers they're using. It just like it's very rooted like in this era of the mid 90s.
Especially since the aliens had their own countdown clock, which David was able to access, and then he was, he's like, check. He's like, what happens now? He's like, checkmate, or something like that.
Yeah.
That countdown finally hits, but the graphics for everything is just so beautifully like 90s. Like, oh man.
Yeah, even the clothing. Like if you look at like the suits, like the women are wearing in the White House, or just the styles, the hairdos, like all of that. Just has a very 90s look about it, and it's
like
funny.
one of the best scenes. I before we started up tonight, I watched a couple scenes from Independence Day just to jog the memory. But when they are like the first ship is going to come into view, and like David's running up the staircase and everyone's running down, and they're showing like various shots of New York City. Just everything they show is, like you said, so 90s. Like you got like the homeless, you got the kids playing basketball, you got people like at a hot dog stand, the taxis, the traffic inside, Central Park and everything else. Like it's like a time capsule movie almost.
Totally. So here we are. It's 2019, and we are 22 years removed from Independence Day. How would you say that the film holds up all this time afterward?
I think in terms of nowadays with what special effects are, people would say like, oh man, like this is an antiquated looking movie, but like even with movies like Alien and Jurassic Park, especially, all those special effects hold up. There's some cheesy moments here and there, but Independence Day overall is still really awesome. There's a couple shots where you're like, you know what I mean? Like maybe like that alien spaceship flying through the desert, and that one little scene where it's blasting at the jet. But I personally, and also the fact that we saw it in theaters, we have like a connection to it. But I think personally, people would definitely still like it. I think it's such an odd movie not to like.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with that. I think that it does hold up in the sense that it is still a fun, entertaining film. But I do really think you had to have seen Independence Day like as a kid back during that era, because as we were saying, it is a very 90s film in a lot of ways, and it fit perfectly for the time, right there in the midst of, UFOs and pop culture and, just being so prominent. And it was just like the right time for this film. And I think that's what makes it special still is, for us, it's the nostalgia looking back and remembering, that setting and being kids. And even now, it's still a fun watch and it's fun to relive it.
Well, I think even when they did Independence Day Resurgence recently, I think that shows like these types of movies or, Independence Day wouldn't work these days. Like that, the movie is it's a goofball movie. Yeah. Like, it has its good parts. It's overall kind of like, but yeah, I enjoy it purely because it's a sequel to, a movie that I actually really liked. So it's not the best, but there's worse things out there.
Yeah, and that is true. I mean, Independence Day Resurgence is definitely, it feels like in spirit, like they were trying to recreate the first film. Like the humor is very similar. The actors, a lot of the lines, the way they relate to each other, all that's very similar.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I think that's another thing we didn't really touch on though is like the humor of the film. The first Independence Day, there's a lot of it in there. There's a lot of stuff that makes you grin and. It doesn't take itself too seriously.
I will say the one thing I never sat well with me was the president's wife dying because I can't think of her name. 50 Cent's wife now or whatever.
Vivica A. Fox.
Vivica A. Fox. Thank you. Yes. She goes through that whole storyline where she is trying to save her. They finally save her, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, your wife died," and I'm like, "What?"
Yeah, it's weird. And you know what? There's never a moment of like the president saying to Will Smith, "Oh, how coincidental! Your wife found my wife."
Yeah, exactly. Like, what I mean? That's exactly right. It should have been like, you saved my wife, I'm going to help you, and then that's why I'm flying the jet. Because like when he does get in the jet, I'm like, your daughter is like sitting there, right? Like you're just gonna, leave her? Like, come on. So
yeah,
if I had to nitpick the movie, that was one of the things that never sat well with me.
Yeah, it is a little weird. It is a little, plot armor, as they say.
Yeah. It still works, though.
It still works. We can easily overlook that in light of how good the movie is otherwise. One of the settings in the film, too, is it's not there anymore, but the El Toro base in Orange County.
Yeah.
So I lived really close by there as a, years later, obviously, like as an adult. But I always thought about that when I would drive by there and, you still see like signs and stuff. It's like, oh, that's the El Toro from Independence Day. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. My dad, he took me there, I think once or twice. I remember going there as a little kid.
Nice.
But yeah, it's been closed for years now, which is a shame. But, still cool to say, oh yeah, I've been there. Like when, he was my dad, military and all that kind of stuff. So he knew that well. And he was all like, he was very into seeing this movie.
Nice. So yeah, of course, this episode would not be complete without us touching on the toy line made for ID4. So
a lot of people are gasping right now. What?
What toys? Why would you guys talk about toys? Made? So yeah, ID4 had a toy line made by Trendmasters, which is not around anymore. I've looked for them and they're just not around. But
Godzilla bankrupted them.
Yeah, most likely. They produced a pretty well-rounded line for the film. It had action figures, both of the human cast, at least some of the characters. It had, the aliens. It had some vehicles that were, not really scaled for the figures, but like, kind of smaller, scale.
Yeah.
It was pretty well built up. So going back to 1996, what are your most prominent memories of this toy line?
I'll tell you what, like when we were talking earlier, like the most prominent memories I have of this toy line was this like janky old Kmart that used to be by my house, and they had Independence Day toys, and I had gotten a few of them, and I still have the Supreme Commander because that is still one of my favorite toys. It sits with all my other giant things I got on my shelf, but these like people like destroyed these toys. I remember the cards being all bent. They were always all over the ground or off the shelf or whatever. And I do remember like I'm like, what are the good things? I remember the plastic bubble coming off and the discs were all dislodged inside with the figures and stuff. So yes, floppy disks. That was a '90s thing and a very '90s accessory to have. I'm sure we'll get to that. But they just. It was all basically what? It was like the same figure almost, like the alien in the biosuit. Or they're called harvesters, right? Isn't that what the aliens are called? Or the locusts, whatever. They never really had like an official name, but I think that's what people call them.
Yeah, quite possibly. But yeah, you're right. Like, I think the aliens, if you look at them, the heads are each different, like, shapes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So
the red one, the red one came out. I think it had spikes or something to it, right? What's his name? The weapons expert.
Yeah, there you go. The weapons expert. So that's the thing about these aliens. They made them really fun by kind of assigning each of them their own sort of role. Like, you had the alien weapon expert. You also had like a zero gravity alien, which was like a gray one that, was kind of, it must have been like a later wave because I don't remember seeing that in stores. That was the other thing. Looking at them and having done research, I don't think I ever saw half these ones in the stores, especially the playset. Right. You had the attacker pilot, which was basically the only one that's like film accurate.
Yeah.
That's the one that Will Smith punches in the face. There was also the shock trooper, alien shock trooper. That's actually the very first one I have. It's pretty cool because it's like a dark purple color, but it has glitter on it.
Yes, I had that one. Uh-huh.
Nice. So that we have a chain of grocery stores. It's still there in Texas called HEB, and that is actually where I got that very first shock trooper.
Oh, okay, cool. Isn't that cool when you always think about like old, like the most, like the oddest places where you'd find toys? It's never like the usual. It's like, oh yeah, this like small little store.
Yeah,
those are always the best stories.
Yeah, that was a good evening there. I remember being there. I remember my grandma was there. I remember my mom was there, my brother and sister. My brother got one too. He actually got the attacker pilot. And,
cool.
Yeah, and later on, I don't remember exactly how I got it, but I also had the alien science officer, which I thought was the coolest one because they had this like really metallic, like blue and silver, like color palette, and just really, really attractive. But yeah, it wasn't until years later where I got to go. I was, on eBay. I think this was like mid to late 2000s, and then I saw these other ones, like I was saying, the zero gravity alien, which is basically like a gray version.
Yeah, you're making me want to go back and like I want to go on eBay tonight.
There's also the Alien Ultimate Commander, which is like the rarest one, and it even has a sticker on it that says limited production. I don't know what it was from or... Yeah, so I got that one on eBay like years later, and it has like this really like shiny like chrome finish. Have you seen that one?
No, it's called the Supreme Commander?
Commander.
Is it the biocontainment chamber one?
No, Ultimate Commander, sorry.
Oh, okay, Ultimate Commander. I don't see that one. Yeah, the Supreme Commander, the electronics on it still work and the face opens. God, I love that.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Oh, you know what? I'm looking at it right now. Oh, yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, so it says limited edition collectors something. Can you make out what it says? Collectors.
Yeah, limited edition. And it says in the middle, it says collector's edition. Limited production. Yeah.
Limited production, collector's edition. Yeah, I do have that. I've never taken out of the packaging, but I do have one of those. And I don't know where it was released or, if it was an exclusive somewhere or, why it was limited production. But it is a really cool looking alien. And
yeah, it looks like xenomorphish colors almost. Like, yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah, and that's one thing I want to say about, they say like Alien Ultimate Commander, but they're not really referring to like biomechanical suit.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're referring to like
Dr. Owen or whatever his name is.
Dr. Oken.
Oken, yes, that's what it
is. They're referring to like the little pack-in alien that comes with it.
That's funny.
So the idea is that you take the little alien pack-in and then you put it into the head. So there are there's a clamp on the back of the exoskeleton or the biomechanical suit's head. You pinch that and then it opens up and you can see if you demo it at the store, because you can actually try it out at the store. There's a little hole in the back. There is a little cardboard version of the alien in there. And then once you buy it and take it home and open it up, you can pull that out and then put the actual little alien figurine in there.
God, that was so much fun. And the tentacles were all bendy wires.
Yeah, and so was the little alien pack-in. Like they had like a little like a metal skeleton inside, so you could pose it. But I can't remember ever getting them to fit inside the head. Could you?
That was the ones that I remember having. The Supreme Commander one fit, no worries, because that thing was huge. But you had to you could jam them in there, but they were all like the head was always like a little bit open, like still, you know what I mean? Like it was. It's like they were like, it's like a millimeter off. They're like, ship it. Who cares?
Yeah, and the biomechanical suit also had, like you were saying, very bendy tentacles, so you could pose them. And then it had two rigid ones that you could use to kind of balance the figure, like on your shelf.
Yeah, that was the other thing. Those things didn't stand, like, by any means. Like, yeah, you had to prop them up. I remember that. That was pretty funny. Yeah,
it was. And even like those more rigid tentacles, they would, like, warp after a while. The legs would start to warp. And it's funny because when you look at these, they did a fantastic job recreating the sculpt of the way these creatures looked in the film. Like, they look so film accurate. It's a perfect sculpt almost. You know, the paint detailing on all of these is awesome. They're all unique. But you know, they are very flimsy is the only thing.
Yeah. That was like the drawback. And then even if you had, it's kind of like what they did with the Kenner aliens, where you have all these different aliens, but you only had like a handful of, humans or antagonists kind of thing. And they only had like, 3 or 4. And the humans were just kind of like, okay, like they really focused on the aliens and not the humans or anything like that.
Yeah, totally. You mentioned
the likenesses were not there at all.
Yeah, the human action figures were really the opposite. They didn't look anything like their movie counterparts.
I'm looking at Will Smith right now. I'm like, he didn't sign off on that. They didn't even ask him.
Yeah, I know exactly. Like all of them, they look kind of 90s. The proportions are kind of off. They're not going to be, what we get today. But yeah. I think even back then, they were kind of weird looking. Yeah.
But you know what? That's part of what we grew up with. And, even though they don't have super articulation, all that stuff, they still had the play feature. And that's what we had back in the day.
Yeah. That's a huge difference between now and then is that back then, you had limited articulation, but the fun factor was there because they would always throw in all these different accessories that you could use.
Yeah. And rocket fire and, even the jet. Did you have any like the, I never ever saw the play set, but I remember the alien attack. I remember playing with that in the store. And I think I saw the jet, the Hornet F-18. Mm-hmm. Did I see that? I'm sure I did.
Yeah, I think I recall seeing those in stores. I know that I had the alien attacker ship. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
The spaceship. I actually did
their spaceship.
Yeah, I didn't get that though until I was an adult. I did a review on it in the channel a few years back. Okay. It's so these are vehicles. They're actually pretty cool. They look they're nicely sculpted. The paint's decent, but they have like little pack-in like action figures. Like the alien is only like a couple inches tall, so they're not scaled to the main line. They're scaled a little bit smaller.
Yeah, that was the one bummer because that would have been cool to be able to fit any of the aliens inside and then put the humans inside the jet and everything else.
Yeah, and you mentioned the alien Supreme Commander. So basically this is kind of like these other aliens we're talking about, but this is a much bigger one. And the way that it works is that there's a little sensor in the front of the alien. So anytime you walk by it, you would set it off and it would make these like sounds and the head would split open and you'd see the alien, host inside the biomechanical suit. So it's
almost like ahead of their time. Like this is if anyone saw Resurgent, this is like the alien at the very end, like the giant alien. So,
basically.
Yeah, they just made it a couple years in advance.
The toys made it up.
That would be funny if that was the case.
Yeah, that is funny. Have you ever seen that? Okay, so you have the alien ship. There's actually a variant of it that has a metallic paint scheme. For the attacker? Yes.
Oh, okay. No, I did not know that.
Yeah, the alien attacker. There is it says on the box, new ultra metallic, and it's like it's a variant. It seems to sell for a little bit higher than the regular version, so I don't know if it was like a later production run or change or something that they did.
Yeah,
production change, but yeah, it seems like it generally commands a little bit of a higher premium than the regular version.
I think you get me like go back and find all these things now. Like I want like the entire set. See, that's what happens. Like we talk about this stuff, and then it's like I saw a bunch of Mighty Max from our last conversation. I was like, do I want to do Mighty Max? Like,
nice.
I don't. Somebody outbid me, so I was like, oh, thank God. Okay, dodge the bullet for right now.
Sure. There was also the biocontainment chamber. So basically, it had another one of these little posable alien hosts, the small ones. But it also came with a chamber that, I guess, like you see in the film, you see the aliens inside, those.
The more the ones that were from the original Roswell crash.
From the ones that are at Area 51.
Yeah.
Which, I never quite understood why those ones look so big, but then the one that's in the biomechanical suit a little bit later is so small.
You know what? I thought the same thing. I thought maybe because they're in the liquid, they look bigger, maybe because of our perspective. But yeah, maybe they were older aliens. That's why they were on a scouting mission. I don't know.
Yeah, that always bothered me to some extent, I gotta say.
You know what's funny? Now you just made me realize that I remember the comic book tie-in for that, or you know what? It came with the VHS, if I'm not mistaken, and it's like a prequel. It shows like the alien ship. The reason it crashed at Roswell is because it got hit by lightning.
Oh wow!
And then things happen. If I remember correctly, it's only like 3 or 4 pages, something like that. But I remember that being like a pack-in for the VHS.
Huh.
I'm gonna have to look that up.
I didn't know
because I definitely remember the artwork on that. As soon as you just said that, you just totally reminded me. Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting because I know we had the VHS, but I don't remember that specifically. So
yeah,
I'll have to look that up.
I'll look that up before everyone starts yelling at me in the comments. So yeah, no, that I feel like we had said, like nowadays, if this movie had done really well, I think they would have really expanded upon everything. Maybe not the way they did in Resurgence, but
yeah,
they really left it open to kind of like decide for yourself what you thought these. The aliens don't even have their own names. Everyone's just like, oh yeah, they're the locusts. They're like, you come up with all kinds of different stuff. So it's definitely one of those thinking movies where you can call them whatever you want, or you just call it the Independence Day aliens.
Yeah, I like calling them by their names, like Alien Science Officer and Alien Shock Trooper, and
right?
Weapons Expert. Because in your mind as a kid, building up like that mythology behind these figures is just fun to do.
Yeah, seriously, and the colors and everything else that they did.
Yep. Even though there's that one shot towards the end of the film where, they're in the mothership and you see like they're all basically like the alien attacker pilot, like the same color and everything.
Yeah. Oh, I found it. Okay. How do I get this to you? It's like ID4 Independence Day #0. It's by Marvel Comics did it. And, it's like the #0. It shows the lightning hitting the ship and stuff like that. So maybe that's what it was. It was like a pack-in, but it only gave you like a glimpse of what the comic, like read the comic, or here's a little tidbit. But yeah, I definitely, it's real. Everyone can stop writing mean comments now.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely have to give that a look. And the only other thing from this line was so I mentioned the biocontainment chamber that had a light. If I didn't throw that little factoid in there, it had a light that you would press the button and that would light up. So it looked like the alien was like submerged, I guess.
That's cool. I remember those. It was like a 2 double pack, right, or something like that. Like kind of.
Well, it had the alien,
chamber and the alien.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
And then the only other thing that I'm seeing here is the Los Angeles invasion. This is the giant action playset, as it's termed on the box.
Yeah.
I remember seeing this on the back of the packaging for the rest of the toys, but I don't remember actually like seeing the playset or having any experience with it.
I went online earlier today, and I was trying to see like on YouTube because I wanted to see, because the box only it's I think it's artwork, because you can some of the examples I've seen, but it doesn't really show you exactly what you're getting, and the only review or whatever's online, they didn't open the box, so they're like, I'm gonna keep it. I'm like, no, why would you do this?
We'll have to resolve this somehow on our own.
Yeah. Oh, and the discs. We got to talk about the discs.
Let's talk about the discs.
We resolved this one from the last one.
We did. So you were on a recent episode called All the Toy Lines We Never Got To. And it was basically a free-for-all where we went over like 20 plus different toy lines in a short amount of time, relatively speaking. It was still a 3-hour episode.
It was fun.
It was a lot of fun. And so we talked about the floppy disks that were included with these figures in this toy line. And how I tried to use them on my computer and, failed at doing it because I couldn't figure out the controls, and I heard sound, but I didn't really see anything going on other than just like an image of, it was the alien just sitting in the chair in its ship, I guess.
Yeah.
But I couldn't get it to work. I didn't know what to do. I would, as a kid, I would just get frustrated. So I would just like turn it off. And we talked about how I had not seen any video clips of these games on YouTube because prior to our recording, I had in fact been looking for them. It'd probably been about a year before that since I last looked, but periodically I was checking to see if these were on YouTube, and they weren't. But lo and behold, I guess in the last several months, somebody went and uploaded, I think all but one of the discs to YouTube.
Yeah, it's quite the like entertaining, like even like for you, like, okay, I never got to play it, it didn't work. It's like you weren't missing much. Like it wasn't anything, like, it's billed as like, it's exciting, it's a computer game, like it involves like stuff from the movie and you can go on and choose your own adventure, yada yada. It's just like an alien like sitting in a chair and you point and click and you barely like see anything. So it's still cool to see. But it gives you a glimpse of how the aliens fly their ships, I guess, with all their little tendrils and things. And it's pretty wild.
It's probably a good thing that they didn't work, because I think I would have been disappointed, and I wouldn't really have understood what was going on, because I think you basically just press like 1 or 2 buttons on the keyboard to do anything. And even then it's really only doing one thing, right? It's like trying to like blow up the earth or...
Yeah, you like the funny thing is that you can go to Earth, or you can go to like Vector Sigma Prime or something like that, and then the other one is like you can go to Klaatu, which is I guess from the day the Earth stood still or something like that. And whichever one you pick on, usually like you die from like a supernova unless you go to the Earth, and then you don't really do anything, and it's like you're truly the supreme commander, like you destroyed. Or no, it'll go virus up. So it's like basically when Steven Hiller and Jeff Goldblum are doing their thing, and it'll say like virus uploaded, and then it says like get revenge, and then you end up blowing up the Earth anyways. And I'm like, oh, so that works, okay? Like that's simple.
Yeah, getting blown up by a supernova, that's not a good way to go out.
Right? Yeah. It's definitely 90s graphics. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's the plus.
Yeah, and I mean, when you look at these, it almost feels like, we were talking about viruses earlier. It almost feels like the kind of screen you would get like if you did get a virus back at that time. Oh, totally.
Yeah. Or even now, if that showed up, you'd be like, oh, my computer's screwed.
Yeah, I'm done.
It's got a 90s virus.
Oh, that'd be weird. A 90s virus like attacking like a 2019 like computer.
Oof, yeah, that'd be creepy. Like somebody put it back then, just hit now, like, yeah.
And so one of them that I saw, I didn't watch them all because there's quite a few of them, but one of them that I looked at was like an alien like trying to transform like objects into different objects.
I didn't see that one. That's hilarious.
Yeah, like I remember there was like an animal, and he turned it into like, I don't know, like I'm just kind of, I don't remember what the exact items were, but maybe he took like a little plant and turned it into a teddy bear or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so that makes total sense. About like that's what the aliens were doing before they attacked. They're just like, yeah, let's turn this cat into a plant.
A cactus.
Yeah. It's like horribly like graphic, like splitting the cat open. It's like, oh my god, like what is on this disc?
It's weird because in this game, and I'll have to send it to you, it's like basically you're pressing a button and it's just like going like and it's basically just transforming it before your eyes into something different.
Wow. Thanks Trendmasters. This is the perfect pack-in back in the day. Could you imagine if they did that now? Like people like Black Series, like, oh, we're gonna put people would just, you think they get mad about Jurassic Park exclusives and stuff? Like, what is this?
Yep, and I can't even think of like where you would even use a floppy disk these days.
That would be the goal. Like you'd have to search out, and then there'd be a code for a free figure.
Right.
It's like the ultimate test.
And then like finally you figure it out, and then your computer is like, oh, this game isn't compatible.
That's too funny. Yeah, I'm glad when you said that somebody put them up. I looked it up and I was like, oh my god, that's exactly what I thought was on these discs like all these years.
Yeah, it's funny, like just like out of the blue, like, oh, there they are, and there's like so many different ones.
You'd think they would have made like a jet, maybe try to get away from an alien spaceship, or it's like a shooter, like an old spaceship shooter, something like that. No, it's a point and click adventure.
Yeah.
I like the alien like graphics too. The packaging for the original, like for the ID4 stuff, was actually pretty cool though. I give it to them. It's a little, very blue, black, but
oh yeah, the packaging looked really cool. It definitely captured, the feel of the spaceships from the film, and just that overall, the blue and the black, and it just felt right. Like it really fit.
Oh my god, he's transforming a turtle. He turned it into a dove or a pigeon. And now it turned into a bug. This is what the aliens were doing. This was their master plan, was to just transmutate everything into other things.
Yeah, so
that is too funny. Thank you for sending that.
Yeah, so no plants, but definitely transforming animals into other animals. If you forward it a little bit, there's like some eggs there too, like, or something. I don't know. Are those eggs? They look like eggs.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Like alien eggs.
They're trying to crossbreed with like aliens from Earth.
How come that's a thing they should have done? Why did they do Alien Meets Independence Day? That would be interesting. Like eggs get a boy. I don't know. Actually, I'd have to think about the plot on that one. Maybe Predator versus Independence Day. Who knows? So many things you could do. They gotta do more things with Independence Day.
Yeah, they do. I mean, these games are weird, though. I mean, there's really no clue what's going on. There wasn't any instructions that came, as far as I recall, like telling you what to do with the games. Like once you actually got on your computer and were starting to play them. So it was,
I don't think so either.
And the music is very like harsh. And, yeah, they're really out there. I'm going to throw some links in the show notes, so anybody that wants to look these up on YouTube, definitely give it a look.
Oh, you got to. Yeah, you'll laugh. It's like classic. Even if you watch like one or two, you'll get the gist of it. You'll just be like, oh, this is going to be a once a month kind of thing for me.
That's a perfect way to say it, because they are very bizarre.
Yeah.
All right, so what I want to do now is... on Twitter, I asked people to share their memories of Independence Day, things that they remembered from it. So I'm just going to read through a few of them here.
Sure.
Tom Chorlton, who is one of our contributors here on Cantina Chatter podcast from time to time, he says, I watched it 7 times in the movie theater, the most I've ever seen a movie in the theater. Still love it, goofiness and all. Yeah.
That's good. That's good, Tom. I agree. I agree with you on that one. It's definitely... they should... I don't know why they don't, like, on Independent, like, like you're saying, July 4th's coming up. Why don't they do, like, screenings of that movie? I'd go see that again.
Heck yeah. At 3D or something. I'd go watch it.
Yeah.
Jurassic Dave 93. I love this movie. First film I got to see multiple times in the theater. I had the poster hanging on my wall for years. I still love it, but if you didn't see it in the 90s, I'm not sure it holds up. 90s one-liners and computer viruses. So a little bit of what we touched on.
Yeah, you know what? The posters, that movie had a very cool marketing campaign. Thinking back on that now, like people, like the posters were something that you could keep up on your wall, because it was like, it's Independence Day, but it's also very atmospheric, and they were all pretty cool looking. At least it didn't have like Bill Pullman and all the stars like on it. It was just like space.
Yeah.
Maybe the ship from Independence Day coming in. That very cool scene with all the fire and it's entering the atmosphere. And yeah, that was. God, I'm gonna watch that movie sometime soon.
Yeah, I am too. But I think you're right. Yeah, like we would just get glimpses of characters like David Levinson and President Whitmore, but it wasn't very like you didn't really know what's going on. There wasn't really like they didn't give anything away. It's not like now where they basically spell out the whole movie in the teaser.
Oh yeah,
or the trailer. It was like very like restrained, and they really didn't give anything away about plot or what was going on. But you knew that it was about alien invasion, and that's really all you needed to know.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I already know thanks to the internet. Like I already know the plot for Joker and Terminator. Dark Fate. Like back in the day, they blew up the White House. You knew that was like a big spoiler.
Yeah,
you knew that was coming, but
yeah,
you definitely didn't know things. That was the best way to watch movies back in the day.
So Jason Garcia says, I remember going opening weekend with my family. I really loved it. Also, first time I ever experienced a standing ovation after a film ended. Probably because it was 4th of July and also because it was just great. Who doesn't love Bill Pullman's president's speech? Cheesy, but goat.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely like, and you know what? That's totally right because for something that's as epic as like overcoming a horrible tragedy, the movie is a giant tragedy. Because of all the people that like died, but for an independence movie, that's the perfect movie for that type of weekend.
It is, and it is cool how we didn't really talk about this, but how at the end of the film, everybody from across the world basically unites. All the countries, they put their differences aside, and I think that goes back to something Reagan said. Didn't he about like if there was some sort of alien invasion, that it'd probably be the quickest way to unite the whole world.
Exactly.
So yeah, interesting stuff.
Yeah, I wish that would happen now. No.
Liam Fitzgerald says, I love the alien designs. I still wish some company out there had made super articulated versions. I know that Trendmasters figures were good, but mostly 5 POA, aside the bendy wire tentacles. Also, the discs they came with were super frustrating.
Oh my God, yeah. I hope you've seen the videos.
Yeah, as we know now, they were pretty bad.
They made Funko Pops for Resurgence. I know that.
And for the original, I think, didn't they?
I think so too. I think it all came out around the same time. Like they just did both movies.
I never got them.
Yeah, I think that's really the only Independence Day stuff that's come out in a long time.
Probably, yeah, since the 90s, basically. Because I know that leading up to Resurgence, I really was hoping there was going to be a toy line, but sadly there wasn't. Yeah,
wouldn't that have been rad? It's just so funny to me how these toy companies, sometimes it's like you have alien spaceships, monsters, all this stuff. You can't make a toy line from this. Come on.
Yeah, and I think it was also partly like a 90s thing. It's like we were talking about in that last episode. It's like movies like Robin Hood, would not get a toy line nowadays, but this one did. So
you think, it's too bad but that's how things have turned out. Kids don't really collect or play with a lot of stuff like we did back in the day, and toy lines are really just there to market the movie at this point.
Yeah, totally. Fede says, one of the most entertaining movies ever made. Its force, beside the special effects and the fantastic musical score, is the charisma of basically every actor character, even the supporting ones. So that goes back to something we were talking about as well, that, everybody is very likable, great cast, great, characters. And he also mentioned the soundtrack, and I think that's also something that, we should mention, is the soundtrack for this movie was really good.
Yeah, especially... I've mentioned a couple of times, but when the first ship is shown, like that is a great reveal, like that really epic, like whoosh, I guess you'd say, of music, and you're just like that, like it's a dreadful scene. You're just like they're screwed, like dang. And Jeff Goldblum's on the roof going like I'm like I always remember like touch it, like the ship is not that high, is it?
Yeah, I love that scene where he's playing chess with his dad.
Yeah, people don't play chess enough in parks anymore.
Yeah, they don't. JT Rex says that speech by the president still gives me chills. So yeah, absolutely. Tony says such a great movie. The sequel, not so great.
Yeah, I don't know how Judd Hirsch survived that, but he did.
Yeah, that was a little far out.
Yeah.
Sastre says, I think I'm saying that right. Sastre, I apologize if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. Love the scope of the story and the score. I also remember drooling over the Trendmasters toys, which came with floppy disks. Haha. So, yep, we remember that very, very well.
We haven't talked about those once in this episode. No.
Nah. What's a floppy disk?
Yeah. What do you do with those? I don't know.
What if you handed one out to like a kid like in middle school? What, be like, here you go, use it.
Oh my God. Have you seen those videos where they like the kid doesn't even know what a Game Boy is? He's like, what do you do with this? And
yeah, I have.
What?
Yeah. Andrew Scott Mayer says, score in particular by David Arnold is what I find to be one of the best things about it. So yeah, another person praising the score, which is really enjoyable. Mm-hmm. Cliff Bauman says, definitely still one of my all-time faves. Jeff Goldblum at his finest.
Yeah.
And
must go faster. They're like, you know what? We want you to say something you've said in a movie before. You pick it. And he's like, oh well. Yeah. I'll just say must go faster.
Yeah, and it's funny because even as a kid at that, seeing Independence Day, I'm like, you said that in Jurassic Park is what I'm thinking, and just like,
yeah,
it's just funny that he did that. But it's Jeff Goldblum, so we give him a lot of slack.
Oh yeah. He can do no wrong.
He can't.
That man's got a sense of style I could only dream of.
I know, exactly. And then Sean says, gotta be Bill Pullman's speech. Is it cliched? Yep. Is it cheesy? Yep. Does it make me pump my fist in the air every time I hear it? Hell yes. Kind of a perfect analogy for the film, actually. Yeah.
Except for that guy at the end that salutes. He ruins it. That guy.
It's actually funny because he put a GIF of that exact guy you're talking about doing the
salute. He knows what's up. Yeah.
Yeah. That's hilarious. So yeah, lots of cool feedback there, and it sounds like a lot of people share many of these same sentiments that we had about Independence Day and what makes it such a great and memorable film, especially for those of us who grew up with it back in the 90s.
I was hoping somebody was going to write like, that's the worst movie I've ever seen, it's garbage, and be like, really? No. Like, did you see this scene? The dog missed the fire by a split second. Like, the fire didn't go into that little compartment for whatever she was able to kick the door down. It just totally bypassed it as fire does. Everyone knows that.
Yeah, it's fire. It doesn't know better.
Yeah, like don't talk about logistics in this movie. It's flawless. Flawless science.
Love it.
Human technology can give alien technology viruses. Just don't even at me.
Well, the aliens were too superior for viruses.
Yeah. Jeff Goldblum figured it out. If there was ever an alien invasion, you just call Jeff Goldblum.
Exactly. That's who I want by my side during an alien invasion. Jeff Goldblum.
And you got to get cigars. Everyone has to have cigars after this movie too. I remember asking my dad, I'm like, what, like, is that a thing? Or, what? And he's like, yeah, like that's fairly accurate. You do something good, you have a cigar.
Yeah, when the fat lady sings, right?
Yep. You know what is really, like, thing we didn't touch, the actual alien ship, or the mothership for the first movie, was pretty interesting inside. Like, it had like really weird smaller ships, and it almost looked, if I remember, it was very crystalline and very like almost like like their version of vegetation. So it was a very biomechanical ship, I guess you could say. I'd like to always have seen more of that. That was very interesting once they were inside. Yeah,
that's what I wanted to see more of for sure. I would have loved to have seen more of that. Like, even inside the discs that they were flying like over the Earth, just like show me more of like the alien technology and what it looks like in their vehicle when they're like piloting, because the whole movie is from the human's perspective, which I think is one of the things that works to its advantage. But I'd also love to see like what's inside those ships. What does it look like in there? What are they doing when they're blowing up all these cities? Yeah,
well, you just look at the discs that came with the action figures. It gives you sort of a good idea.
Exactly. Just look at the discs. That's all you need to do.
They made you work for it back in 1994 or 5. Totally.
So, Toy Shiz, do you have any parting thoughts on Independence Day or the toys or any of the stuff we've been talking about?
It got snubbed during Oscar season. I will say that. But, No, it's a great alien invasion movie. They don't really do much of that anymore. I'm trying to think back. They tried to make the Blair Witch an alien invasion movie last time I saw that, but yeah, we need aliens to come back, and not Marvel stuff. I'm talking about like evil aliens, just aliens in general, in all manners, xenomorphs, predators. We need more of that stuff because it's just fun. Yeah. It's fun to see.
It is. We need some more alien movies. I know Men in Black's coming back, pretty soon here, but...
Oh, no, it's already out. Did you know it's already out?
No, I didn't know that. It's out already?
Yeah, and I didn't know that until I was like, wait, I thought that was totally... it's summer, but I thought it was totally... it's gotten well, we could talk about it later, but it's not doing so hot.
Oh, wow. I thought it was like a July movie.
That's what I thought too. It was at the theater. I drove by the other day. I was like, "What the heck? When did this come out?" So, unless I'm wrong, and maybe I saw all the they have reviews online, so maybe it's this weekend. But
Toy Story is this weekend. I doubt they're gonna go near that.
Yeah, I've heard good things about Toy Story, but not Men in Black International.
I love Toy Story. Another awesome '90s movie.
And all over the toy aisles at your local Target. Buy them now.
Yeah, and even outside of the toy aisle, they're in the boys and girls section too. Just tons and tons and tons of them.
Yeah. You know what? That's one thing I will say. Recently they've done with toys is that boys stuff's in the girls section, girls stuff's in the boys section, and a lot of people go and I'm like, you know what? As long as everyone's just still having fun with toys, who cares? I don't care. Just make them cool and have fun with them.
Yeah, just let me buy them, make them available to when I go to the store. They're there. That's to me. That's the most important thing. I want to find the toys.
Yeah, exactly. Make enough, and yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. Please just have something when I go in the store.
Yeah, but no, I totally agree with you. I think that we need more aliens. I think that's one of the things that, I've said it several times now. That was one of the things that made this film special. It came out at the height of UFO mania in America. And, when you're a kid growing up in that sort of, with that in the backdrop, it really, I think, especially if you're an imaginative kid or a creative kid, it really adds to your imagination. And, it really gives you a lot of, things to think about. And, I don't know, for somebody like me, that always brought a lot of enjoyment to my life. So I agree with you. More aliens.
Yeah, I agree. It's the 90s for me, and then growing up and then, doing very creative stuff myself, it added to that. It's very outside the box, and it was a lot of fun. It's stuff I wish they would do more of it. Just do more alien stuff.
Do more alien stuff. Do more Independence Day toys, especially if it's, in the spirit of that original line where, you get to think about these different types of aliens that are, have their own roles and their own jobs. And, that's just really fun, creative stuff. And I'm drawn to that. I love it.
See, I would think remember back in the day, McFarlane would do Movie Masters, right? What was it? Why can't I think of it?
Masterpiece, maybe?
No, all the horror stuff they used to do. It was cool. Movie Maniacs. Thank you. Yeah, I was like, what was that called? That would be cool if another, McFarlane or NECA could bring that back somehow and do the more obscure, monster movie type stuff and throw Independence Day in there, have one of the aliens and you could do some cool stuff with that. That way it's not just, something nobody wants to buy except for us.
Yeah, that'd be pretty. Independence Day, I think also, as we close out here, I think is the kind of thing that would probably still make a good video game, a proper open world video game. I think that would be a really cool thing to see.
Totally, just a shooter, one of those old SNES shooters, Phalanx or something like that. I don't care. That would be amazing.
Yeah, or something where you can play either side. Maybe you play as the aliens. You get to see what that side of that universe is, or even as the humans, and you have to strategize how to prevent them from, wiping out humanity.
Yeah, instead of laser beams, you just shoot out virus code or whatever. Gotta infect the ships so that they drop. I don't know. What are we even talking about anymore?
That's awesome. But yeah, no, Independence Day, obviously we love the film. I think that it is a quintessential 90s film. And if you grew up during that era, you probably saw it. You probably loved it. And if you're like me and Toy Shiz, you probably still love it and still find it highly enjoyable.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. If you don't like it, you're the weirdo, not us. No, just keep that in mind.
Yeah, well, I need to go play with some ID4 toys. So where can everybody find you online?
I need to buy some. I got to buy some. Yeah. You can always find me on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, at Toy Shiz. I make it real simple, and I like to keep it open. You want to talk toys anytime, let me know. Just private message me, email me. I'm always there. Talk about anything. So look forward to chatting with you guys.
Yeah, and that's why you're like one of the perfect people to come on to Cantina Chatter podcast and talk about all this stuff, because we're about the same age, and we have the same memories and experiences, and we love toys and we love talking about this sort of stuff. So
yeah,
I hope that I hope you'll come back very soon. I
think so. I kind of had fun. I'll just say, it was like mediocre at best. No, no, I would love to. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Toy Shiz. Always a pleasure.
Thank you guys for listening.
Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
Independence Day, one of those movies that really hits me in the nostalgia. It's really something from my childhood, as well as all the toys. It was a very weird, very small toy line, but one that definitely left its mark. And a huge thanks again to Toy Shiz for coming on here and talking all things Independence Day with me. If you aren't already, subscribe to the place it all started, the Victoria's Cantina YouTube channel, where I review new toys and showcase retro toys from the past. You can also follow us for news and updates on Facebook by looking up Victoria's Cantina, toy photography on Instagram at Victoria's Cantina, and a constant drip of toy-related and other random and nonsensical tweets on Twitter at Vic's Cantina. If you're so inclined, we are on Patreon. Gain greater access to Victoria's Cantina by becoming a Patreon Cantina patron. For as little as $1 a month, you'll help to keep the show going and also get exclusive content such as access to a private Twitter feed, early access to toy reviews, and behind-the-scenes featurettes. And if you can't, but you still want to help us out, one of the easiest and most helpful things you can do is leave us a review over on Apple Podcasts. It only takes a minute, so hit that 5-star rating and leave a note stating why you enjoy the show. It'll make us more visible on iTunes and help others to find our show. As always, I'm Victoria, and no matter where you're listening out in the galaxy, I'd like to thank you for tuning in to the Cantina Chatter podcast.